returning judges that are here to get a review and refresher, so welcome back. But I know we also have quite a few new judges for the first time. So I just want to make sure everyone's on the same page and kind of give a few introductions, and then I'll turn it over to the expert with Project Lead the Way with the Innovation Portal. Engineering Design and Development, it's kind of known as EDD, is the senior capstone class in the PLTW engineering program. So there is a engineering pathway, and it ends with the senior capstone, and that is this class, and it is which this competition was designed for. It gives the students the ability to engage in open-ended problem solving, so they can learn and apply the engineering design process, which is the meat and potatoes of what this class is supposed to teach the students. So they can come up with great projects, but really what we're coming together for and judging is the actual engineering design process. These students are also, through this capstone, able to get the opportunity to learn a lot of different engineering disciplines for actually beginning post-secondary education or career. So if there's, their thought process entering their senior years, they want to do one thing, this process might give them some other ideas and make them look into some other directions that they might enjoy more. So with that quick introduction, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Elliot Mork. He works with the National Project Lead the Way office. He is kind of the expert with the Innovation Portal and setting up state competitions. And he's going to go through the Innovation Portal and explain how the process design rubric and the judging works. And then after that, we'll ask questions, but then I'll kind of give you an idea of when I'll be distributing the projects to each of you and kind of give you a little bit of a timeline for our competition. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Elliot.
Thank you, Brandy. Like Brandy said, my name is Elliot Mork. I work with Project Lead the Way, Associate Director of Development Initiatives at Project Lead the Way, and most of my work focuses around employee engagement and specifically the Innovation Portal, helping to support on the technology side all the competitions that happen in states and internationally, actually. I want to check a couple things. First, that I have unmuted myself correctly, and then another thing that you've found the chat box. So if you could go ahead and just send me a message in the chat box. I'm going to pause every once in a while for questions, but if you have anything and you want to put it into the chat box or unmute yourself and ask, you can interrupt as well. Let's see. All right, great. Looks like I am unmuted. All right. So today we're going to be covering a few different topics to give you an overview. The first two steps you've probably already completed. The first one is to make sure your browser is up to date and it will work with the Innovation Portal. The Innovation Portal makes use of some new or at least current technologies in browsers, and so you want to make sure that your browser is up to date when you use it on the Innovation Portal. It'll check it automatically if you visit the Innovation Portal, or you can go to whatismybrowser.com to run a test to make sure your browser is completely up to date. The second step is to create an Innovation Portal account. Every account is free, and there's no special account. So even though you're only going to be a judge, you still create an account, just like a student would. And then we manage the permissions after that. And so the first step is to once you create the account, is to add a permission to be a judge for the Oklahoma Engineering Design Competition. To do that, you have to give Brandy your email address, and she will send you an invitation, which you can accept. You should get a push email to accept the invitation, or you can go onto the Innovation Portal and check your notifications and then accept the invitation that way. But those first two steps, hopefully you've already done, and I see that there's 20 judges already loaded in the Innovation Portal and only 2 invitations still out. So it looks like most of you have done those first 2 steps. The third thing I'm going to cover is give you an overview of how the online system works. What is the Innovation Portal and how does it connect with this EDD class and the competition. I'm going to show you how to access portfolios assigned to you. Brandy will be sending out and assigning you a portfolio, so student work to review, and I want to show you how to access that. We're going to be using the ED PPSR rubric, and I want to show you about how to use that rubric, kind of a little bit of the history, but mostly just functional use of how to actually use the rubric as a judge. I'm going to show you how to access that rubric, access scored examples. One of the great resources as a virtual judge that you have is the ability to look at example student work from the past that people have come to common consensus on with the scores, and view the student work and then look at the thought process behind why it scored a certain score, and to help calibrate yourself. I know in a virtual competition, sometimes it can be difficult to, you don't get that chance to walk around like a science fair room to kind of calibrate yourself for the level of quality with the projects. And so these scored examples are kind of there for you to do that. The last step is to submit your scores to Brandy. Judging is due, I think Brandy will follow up on the exact day that it's due. If you have any technology issues with the innovation portal, if you can't log in, access your account, don't know where your portfolios are to review, you can send me an email at emork@pltw.org. Any technology issues. If it's more of a competition issue, like what school are the students from or anything, Brandy is the expert on the actual Oklahoma competition, but I can quickly support you if you have an issue specifically with the innovation portal. I kind of covered this slide already. The steps to get into the innovation portal to be a judge. The first step is to create an account. Second is to give Brandy the email address that you used. You look for the invitation that she initiates, and then accept the invitation. So this slide is an overview of how the competition structure actually works with the student side and the judge side, and how Brandy as a competition administrator fits between y'all. The first step that the students have already done is to register their interest in the competition. The first step is just to let Brandy know how many students will possibly be submitting portfolios, so she gets a scale of a little bit of knowledge about the scale of the competition it's going to be. That allows her to recruit the right amount of judges to actually do the evaluation part. So the judge recruitment happens during this registration phase as well. Just earlier this week, students submitted. So the submission window for actual student work was May 2nd through the 9th. And that window is the date when students can actually submit their work into the competition to be reviewed. So once the students have submitted, which they did earlier this week, they can send their portfolios to the competition. And at that point, Brandy has access to them as the competition administrator. There'll be quite a few of these. Excuse me. And so at a point pretty soon here quickly, she'll be getting all these portfolios and then assigning you between 3 to 5 portfolios to review. Each portfolio takes about an hour. The first one is a little bit over that, and then each one after that is a little bit less after you familiarize yourself with the rubric. So you'll have about 3 to 5 hours, 3 to 5 portfolios to actually do that review process. There's a magic button on the competition where it automatically distributes out, and so that Brandy can actually send that out to everybody and automatically randomly distribute the portfolio review assignments to judges. And then, but all you'll see is the portfolios that you get assigned, the 3 to 5 that are assigned to you. You'll have a period of time, usually about 2 weeks, to do that review process, to log in. You can either, if you're doing work volunteer hours, maybe take an hour there, or on a Sunday morning with coffee, you could do it there too. So anywhere you have internet access and a computer, you can do that review process with the portfolios online virtually. So the last step after that, after you've done the evaluations, is to send those scores back to Brandy. What she'll see is an automatic rank listing of the scores coming in. It'll even out the scores and in an average that each portfolio gets, and then rank them according to score as they roll in. So she'll be able to see during the judging process which portfolios are doing well, and then which ones are rising to the top. At the close of the competition is when Brandy takes that list of the top 3 or top 5 or whatever is going to be taken off the top and has designated those as winners. So, excuse me. The Innovation Portal is a tool that students can use in EDD, the classroom. The first step is they create a portfolio. That portfolio contains all the documentation associated with doing engineering design work in their class. They can work with team members, project partners, and give them access to collaborate and own the portfolio along with the original creator of the rubric. So we see teams anywhere from 1 up to 4 or maybe even more, have students working together all in the same portfolio. They can invite their teacher in to view the portfolio. Usually the teachers have a view access. They don't necessarily need to make any edits, but they like to keep up to date on what their students are doing and how much is uploaded into the portfolio, how much work they've done. And then one of the neat things about the innovation portal is students can request reviews done by project mentors. There's a function, just the exact same functionality that you'll be using as a judge to submit scores inside a competition. Students can request a review and send it out to any mentor that they have working with them on a project. And so the mentor can do a review and then insert comments and then help the students refine their process and their testing as they work through it in the portfolio. And they can send out as many reviews as they'd like, and it all being virtual, they can send it out to project mentors that are located physically not near them. Once they have the portfolios reviewed by their teacher and their project mentors, they can decide that we're finished and we want to submit to a competition. And so at this point, they can take a copy of their portfolio and it becomes a submission inside a competition. And then if they were done a little bit early or they're eligible for multiple competitions, they could submit the same portfolio to multiple competitions and create multiple submissions for the same portfolio. It being a virtual space, space is pretty cheap, and so users can create as many portfolios as they want, and those portfolios will stay with them as long as they maintain their account. There's no stipulation that they have to be a PLTW student to create an account, and there's no stipulation they have to be maintained to be a PLTW student. So we've had students take their portfolios, print them out, and submit them as part of a portfolio when applying to colleges, and they'd have access to this for years after it's done in this competition. So at this point, I want to pause for questions before we get into the innovation portal and start showing you where you're going to need to click to get in and review. So I want a quick pause for questions. All right, I'll go ahead and continue. If there are any questions, please feel free to throw a chat in the chat box or to unmute yourself and just jump in. So this is the page that you'll see first when logging into the innovation portal. There might be a little bit of a difference here, though, because I have portfolios in my account. If you have not created one, if you're creating an account just to judge, you won't have any portfolios, and so you'll see a splash page that says you have no portfolios. Would you like to create one? On this left-hand menu bar, the innovation portal has put us into My Portfolios, and that's the default menu that you're put into because the innovation portal is all about building portfolios. But that's not the main thing we want to do as judges. The main thing we want to do is look at the competition. But before we do that, I want to show you My Notifications on the left-hand sidebar. This is where all your notifications, which so far would explicitly to you would be an invitation to a competition, which is the Oklahoma competition. You could judge multiple competitions, and so you have multiple invitations to different competitions. But it's also going to be each of your review assignments that you receive from Randy. You get a notification here that says you've been assigned to review a portfolio, and that's what this looks like right here. This is an assignment within my training example that we'll look at in a little bit here, that notification. But what we want to do is look at competitions, and so I want to show you an opportunities. It's named opportunities for a reason because there's things in here other than competitions. We've had internships, and we've used this functionality to share portfolios with larger groups of people as well when we need to do that. So I want to call attention to these two tabs that we have. We have current and we have past. The current ones are any competition that has not gone past the student submission window. The past ones are any competition that has gone past that student submission window. So right now, we have students working in Minnesota and Wisconsin to put together their portfolios and submit it to these two competitions. The Oklahoma competition has already ended. Students have submitted, and so we have some of those already for you. And to find it, I want to click on Past, and we can see all the past competitions. Now we have competitions from 2015, but no, it's the Wisconsin-Minnesota one. As soon as these two, the 2016s come in, the 2015s disappear. So we can scroll down and we can find the 2016 Oklahoma Engineering Design Competition. This is the one you'll be clicking on when you do reviews. You scroll down and click into this one. You'll find your reviews there. For the purposes of this training example, we're going to scroll up and use a different competition, but you will be clicking into this Oklahoma one here. So just for the purpose of the demonstration, we're going to be going into a training example here. We know that we are a judge in the competition because of this blue bar on top. If we go into a competition that we're not a judge, we will not have this blue bar that says view and reviews. We can only view it. the view is pretty sparse on this one just because it's a training shell and I didn't put really anything in here. But to go to the reviews, we can click reviews, and these are all of the student submissions that Brandy will assign to you, and that you've been assigned. You can see your name up here. For me, it's Ellie Moore. Completed reviews. So right now I've completed 12 of 15, and you'll have a much lower number, but that's just how many trainings that I've gone through this spring, and done 12 trainings, and that each training uses up one. We have 3 more left. We'll use one up today. Underneath here we have the actual review. So this is the name of the first one, 001 new carbon anode, and is complete. So that one's already done. We don't need to go into there. So we want to scroll down and look for an active one. So it looks like we're going to go into this one, 004 humidity issues on Guam. And this is the portfolio we'll be looking at today. So we go ahead and click that to load the student content and view it. This is student content that's been loaded here. This is the cover page. So if we have a new right-hand sidebar here, and we're on the portfolio cover page here. There's nothing to grade here, but it is an opportunity for students to share maybe a picture of them, maybe a picture of their project, or a quick synopsis, executive summary, or something. But we're not going to evaluate anything on this portfolio cover page. One analogy I like to use is this whole portfolio is like a 3-ring binder. And this is that plastic sheet in the front where you can slide a piece of paper in. You don't really grade it, but it's there to make it look nicer, to provide a summary. Going back to that same 3-ring binder, all the tabs along the side are these letters here, and these are the actual pieces of content that students will be loading in into their portfolio. So the first one we want to click on is A. We can highlight it here and then click to actually go into element A to load the student portfolio. Oh, looks like this example we don't have any content here. Let's see, let's go into a different element then. Let's go into C. All right, so here's an example here. So we have some student content for element C. We can read through this. The rubric that we'll be using to evaluate the content with is built into the innovation portal on the right-hand sidebar. So C is presentation and justification of solution design requirements. So this one is all about the design requirements and making sure those are specific and measurable. The first piece of content that you have is the reflective questions. When I'm working with students or teachers, I like to say that these are the checklist of things that students need to do. So the students use this as a checklist to make sure they've done this and they've completed it for element C. For you as a judge, reading these will give you an idea of what this element will be all about. What is it about and what is it not about, kind of the scope of what should be discussed inside element C. We can close that and move on to our next component here is the rubric. So each scoring element ranges from 0 to 5, and we have a description of what it takes to get the score of 0 through 5 for each element. It starts out at 5. We can read the text here describing what a 5 looks like. Not perfect, but a 5 is not necessarily perfect, but a 5 is this, what this text describes. We can click 4, and then it changes to 4, and 3, and 2, and 1, and 0. One thing to note on this rubric is that it's a linear scale, kind of like a stair step, but it's not as discrete as a stair step. So if you were debating whether this portfolio content here for element C would be a 2 or a 3, it doesn't necessarily have to meet every single aspect of a 3 to receive a score of 3. It can be above a 2 and below a 3, and then you use your judgment as a judge to actually decide which one is it closer to. Is it closer to a 2 or closer to a 3? So it's not a cutoff that it has to meet every single requirement within 3 to actually receive a score of 3. It has to meet a score of 2 to receive a score of 3, but it can be closer to a 2 than a 3. So that's a little bit of information for you there. Let's go into the scored element example. So the next thing we have, this text description is pretty good, but as a judge, you kind of want to calibrate yourself a little bit better. So what's provided are scored element examples. There's been a lot of work through researchers. I kind of skipped over this, but there's a three-year NSF grant that really developed this rubric, the language on the rubric, and came to common consensus among engineering educators about what is the best what is the rubric, and then the best language around the rubric, working with some rubric experts. One of the things that they've given you as an evaluator is a glimpse into what they were thinking at the time creating the rubric, and some examples so that you can set a baseline for yourself. So I'm about to click on this. Watch the upper left-hand part of my screen as I click this. We're opening up another PDF file. Your computer may do what mine did, open up a new tab and go to it. It may open up a new tab and not go to it, so you'll have to click that tab over there, or it may download a PDF document. It's kind of depending upon your browser settings. But we inevitably will get a PDF document, and we'll be able to read what the thinking was about this element. So this information is about element C. It received a score of 3. For this lawnmower Kickstarter project is one of the one of the examples that we use for training and for the baseline setting. These couple paragraphs give you a glimpse into what they were thinking. It has all of the thinking behind why this is a 3, not a 2, and why this is a 3, not a 4, and then give some justification behind that score. So this commentary was a committee of evaluators decided that this is a perfect example of a 3 for element C, and then wrote why it is so. If we scroll down, we can see the entire rubric, all 5 components and 14 elements, and then a highlight of what element this is for, so you kind of see it in context for the entire rubric. And then the description of this particular element C, what's the language for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and 0. With a 3 highlighted because this is relevant for 3. And then you have the actual student work. So this is the work that the students actually did. And so you can take a look at the student work and the justification and the score to understand why this is a 3. So pretty powerful piece of information that you have as a judge. I use this quite a bit when I have a questionable portfolio and I want to know, kind of dive a little bit deeper, and I'm not sure how to score it, and it's not clear cut, so I can go into here and find more information to determine the score. Are there any questions about this document or so far on the rubric? All right, I'm gonna go ahead and continue. So we can click the element or rubric scores here, 2 and 3, and let's say we've decided this is a 3. This is probably one of the most important interface issues that I'm going to cover today, is that putting this score of 3 in here is not actually putting that score in. This is only to view it. If you want to actually input your score, you need to open up the clipboard score sheet, and that's down here in this right-hand corner. This is only available to judges or if you're doing a review. If we click that, this is kind of similar to walking around that science fair. You have a clipboard with those score sheets. This is that score sheet that you have to actually put the score down that you'll give to the scorekeeper later on. The right-hand bar over here is only to view, and you have to open up this pen icon to actually submit a score. So we thought it was a score of 3, but maybe we're not sure yet, and so we want to hit the plus button. We can open up another window to view that rubric. We don't have to open up the side right bar menu bar, but we can toggle between 3, 4. And it becomes kind of an issue of window management too, so you can choose to close it as well. Let's see, I think we had a question here. I seem to recall that one can see the full matrix of the rubric in the past, but rubric, about viewing the rubric. There is a way to get the rubric on a single page. One of the documents I'll be sending you after this judge training, or actually Brandy will be sending you, is a PDF document with all the aspects of the rubric. So you have the rubric in several different places. You'll have it here in the right pull-out sidebar where you can click. You'll have it in the scored element example for that specific element, and you'll also have a PDF document about 20 pages long with the entire rubric in a PDF document. I don't like to send that out in advance of the trainings just because it's a little bit intimidating if it's such a large document. You don't need to read it all the way through to prepare yourself for training, but it is useful if you want to print that document out and have it maybe next to you on the desk while you're doing this evaluation. You don't want to use it the right sidebar, or if you have an extra monitor you want to display it on. But you will have a PDF document with the entire rubric in that document. Good question. So we We confirmed that we want to score this as a 3. Everything is saved automatically every couple microseconds. So there's no save button, but it is saved already for us. If we click into comments, we can write a comment. This student work got a score of 3. So we can write these comments, and these comments are going to go a few different places. The first and main use of the comments is to be determined by Brandy, whether she's going to be providing these comments and scores to teachers or students. Typically what we see is that the comments get provided to the teachers of the students, and then they're able to use their best discretion to whether it be constructive to share the comments with the students to improve. One other use of the comments that you should know about is the researchers that created this rubric are doing ongoing research about the agreement between scores and judges, and so that part of what they look at are the comments, and look at the comments from a judge and look at their scoring to see why they're scoring certain ways and what can be improved with the language of the rubric, the training resources, to get a really good consistent agreement between judges. And so that's one other way that your comments will be used as a judge. So we can input the comment here. It might be provided to students. It could be provided to teachers, and researchers might take a look at it to understand what you're thinking about when you're scoring it as this 3, and why you think it's a 3, not a 4, not a 5, not a 2, not a 1. So we can go ahead and close that. Again, everything is saved. So if we want to pull that up again, we can click that pen arrow, and we have that score of 3, and we have the comment that we put in there saved already. So we can close that out. To score the next one, we're on element C because it's highlighted blue, so we can go to D, click on that, and we have the next element that we can score. Students will have text, they'll have pictures, they could have upload videos, and so they can get a lot of different types of student work in here. And I'm scrolling with my mouse wheel right now, but you can also scroll with the sidebar scroll bar here to scroll down to view all the content. So let's take a look at D. Same rubric, but different element, element D. So let's say students did really good on this one. We think it's a 5. Again, we're not scoring it by clicking the 5 here. We can close that out, and then we can open up our score sheet. This is the clipboard if we're science fair judges. When we think this is a 5, go ahead and click that, and then this element was great. And put our comment in here. We go ahead and close that. And then it's pretty much just repeat for each element that you want to score. If you have an element that's blank, you'll see no content up here. And what that means is that students didn't put any content in there. And so just assign it as a score of 0 if you see that. Some students don't complete the portfolios all the way through, and we just want to make sure those are 0s. Except the M and N, these ones are more about the holistic. This is what it'll look like if there's no content. And these elements are a little bit more holistic and look at the portfolio as a whole, talk about grammar use, writing like an engineer, the presentation style, and stuff like that. So you can still submit a score for those ones. Once we're done, we can go up to click complete review. Once we click on this, we're not completely done, but we can review our scores. This is like the shopping cart for online shopping to see what we're about to charge on our credit cards or commit to. If we didn't submit a score, we'll see a question mark. That's an indicator for you that you haven't completed that section. Then you can go back to review and actually submit a score for that. But for the purpose of this training, we're just going to submit the scores for these 2 elements and submit them. So we see that we assigned a score of 3 and a 5. We can actually change the scores here. So if we wanted to change it, we'd have to go back, hit the back browser on back button on our browser, change that score by opening up the score sheet again. We have the comment here, and it's the same comment that we typed. And if there's no comment for a section, there's a statement that says there are no comments for the element review. The question about how do we go back to correct the score. So let's say that B, we actually do want to score B. We had forgotten it, and we think it should get a score of 2. We can hit the back button in our browser, and that'll go back to the portfolio. We can click B, and then open up that score sheet. And let's say we thought it should be a score of 2, put that in here, and then here is a comment. and if we wanted to change something about another element, we could go back into C and then change the score here, or put an extra comment in. We can change everything here. It's saved for us. And then to go back to that shopping cart screen again, all we do is hit complete review. And as you see, there are the comment that we put for, here's the comment that we put for element B, the score, and the changed comment for element C. So now that we're pretty happy with these scores, again, don't leave question marks when you're doing the judging. So look for the question marks and go back and change it when you're doing the evaluation. But for now, we're just going to go down and not spend time doing that. I talked before a little bit about the science fair project and how you have scores on the clipboard. The analogy I like to use here is that you have all your score sheets, but you're not going to hand them in to your scorekeeper. You're going to mail it a little bit later in a couple days. So you put them all in a package. This is putting it in the package or the envelope. And then to put the stamp on it, before you drop it in the mail, click this button here. This is just clicking to understand that once you hit complete review now, you will not have any opportunity to go back and change the scores. The reason we built this into the innovation portal is because Brandy needs to know when the scores are finalized so that she can go in and know who's got first place, second place, third place. It can't be a continual rolling of changing of scores. So at some point, you got to send the scores in, and this is your finalization point here. So we're going to go ahead and click that and complete review. And this completes the review for this entire portfolio, but we can still have more reviews to actually do. So the one we just accomplished, actually before we go there, on the left-hand sidebar here, note we're in My Reviews. This is you're going to be able to see every single review that you've been assigned to do on the innovation portal as a judge. So if you judged last year, you'll have some reviews from last year. You can take a look at the scores in the portfolios about what you evaluated, and you still have access to that. And in our case here, we have the humidity issues on Guam. If we click this, we can go in and still view the student work. This is a cover page here again. Note that let's open up C. We don't have that blue pen icon in the bottom right-hand corner. We can't input any scores on this anymore because it's already been submitted. We can, however, view what we've done and take a look at the review summary, and we can see that our scores, that's 2, 3, and 5 for these 3 elements are there. And so we can view everything, all the work that we've done already, but we can't change it. And if you want to go back to review, you can click that back review. And then so that My Reviews is every single review. And then if you want to go just to the competition to know what else you need to grade for this competition, we can click Opportunities, go into Past button again here. We have to go into Past because we're judging something that's already complete. In this case, I'm going to click Training Example. In your case, you're going to click 2016 Oklahoma Engineering Design Competition. I'm going to go to Reviews. And then this will be every single review that you've been assigned. And again, you hopefully won't have 15 reviews to do on this page. But we did have 12 of 15 complete, and now we have 13 of 15 complete. And we can scroll down and see that the, let's see, where's the Guam? Maybe to pass it. Oh, there we go. Humidity issues on Guam, and we can see that the status is complete. We can also click on this, and the same way we saw the reviews, we can click in and get to that page that way as well. But we don't want to do that. We want to go into the next one, find one, then find another portfolio that's active, and then start evaluating the next one until we've evaluated all of them. So I want to pause again for questions. If there's any questions here, we got one other thing for y'all, to some resources, but I want to make sure I show you everything, that there's no questions outstanding. All right, quiet group today. Last thing I want to show you is this. You'll be receiving 3 documents. You may have already received a few of them after this training. Well, the first one is that this training has been recorded, so you'll be able to go back, and if you forgot one thing once you're doing a review and don't know where to click or have a question, you'll be able to scroll. You'll get a YouTube link, and you'll be able to scroll on the YouTube link and find that section to answer any questions that you forgot if it's where to click on something or any issue. You'll also receive a PDF of step-by-step guides for judges, and that's just the functionality really of where to click of what I've showed you here. Reflective questions from the portal. These are the reflective questions, and it gives you a really good summary of the rubric and what the topic is on each element, and then you'll be receiving the entire ED PPSR rubric. And I mentioned that you'll be receiving, again, that's that 20-some page PDF document that you can either print out to assist when you're doing the evaluations, or open it on another screen, or just not use the PDF and use it built into the innovation portal. But with that, I want to turn it back over to Brandy. I think one thing I did not address is the date when the submissions will be due. So I want to make sure we cover that. But Brandy, if you want to take it back.
Okay, thank you, Elliot. One of the things that I'm doing right now is there's a few more people that are kind of getting signed up as judges, so we're kind of finalizing some judges. I want to get as many as I can in the system, so that way not everyone's having to judge so many portfolios. We want to make sure that each portfolio and project is judged at least 3 times. So right now that we're at that, everybody's going to be judging 4 portfolios. So if someone doesn't finalize, there might be 1 or 2 that end up getting 5. But I'm doing all that I can to make sure we kind of keep that around that 4, so that your time is not spent, too much of your time is not spent judging. So I'm hoping to get everything distributed to all of you for review by Friday, May 13th. I'm hoping everything is finalized by then, and then I would give you till May 25th, so it's just a little less than 2 weeks to get everything judged and your reviews complete. Everything might go fast and I get everything put through by tomorrow or by Thursday. The sooner the better, obviously, but I will let you know as soon as I have some distributed, so that way you know that you do have reviews in there and you can go in there at your convenience. And then at that time, after the 25th, I start kind of figuring out the top teams and kind of moving forward with planning the showcase event, which will take place June 3rd here in Stillwater at the Alumni Center. We will be inviting the top 5 teams to present on stage at the showcase, and they'll show their project to all that attends. And then the top 3 teams, that'll just be off the judging of the online judging, would be recognized as the top 3 teams and projects. But there at the night of the showcase, we'll also have some live judging going on in regards to the best presentation. And that team will also be recognized. And then depending on the scores in the rubric, we will take a certain level of score. So like if all the elements received an average of 3 for that entire portfolio, that might be a team that gets invited. And it kind of depends where that break is and how many teams go above or beyond below it. So last year we were able to invite 16 additional teams, and they showcased around the room their projects. So that way they could still come to OSU and meet faculty and industry advisors that was there, as well as any judges that want to attend. So know that all of you are invited to come to the June 3rd, and I'll be sending out more and more information as I kind of start finalizing more and more details. So all that'll be kind of sent to you, along with some of the things that Elliot said that I'd be sending to you. I'll be sending those to you probably in the next hour or so regarding the link, as well as the additional documents that you may not have gotten yet. So at this time, we'll open up for questions. You guys have any more questions for me or for Elliot? Okay. And again, you guys have my email. My phone number is 744-9